Hello, hello, everyone. I am so happy to visit with you today. My name is Ib, and I am joining you from the Lantana Branch Library. I'd like to wish all of you a very happy, very healthy Haitian Heritage Month. And today I thought I would share with you one of my favorite selections in our children's section, both written and illustrated by a wonderful Haitian family. They actually wrote this story together, and it is the story of family. This is a picture book called Auntie Lucy's Talking Paintings. And it is a really lovely story of a young girl who is taking a trip to visit her aunt in Haiti. Her and her family, her parents immigrated to the United States before she was 7 years old. And she likes to take a trip every year to visit her aunt, who she just adores because her aunt is a fantastic painter. And whenever she goes, she gets to have a portrait painted of herself. And in doing so, they always share these really, really wonderful conversations that I think translate for it. It's something that everybody can take something from. So without further ado, I'd love to share some of this story with you. If nothing else, it is beautifully illustrated. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. So again, this is Auntie Lucy's Talking Paintings, and this is written by Francie Latour, and it is illustrated by Ken Daly. In my mother's bedroom, behind the family pictures and the jar that holds her wedding day flowers, a painting sits on a shelf. It's a painting of me, my eyes closed, almost closed, like I'm dreaming. My braids hang like coal-colored ropes. My face fills the frame, so big and so close that if you look long enough, it starts to look like a whole land. Brown hills, melting into yellow valleys, melting into red riverbeds, and even the river's silver light, running smooth over the rocks. Beautiful, those pictures. It's gorgeous. When I think back to the first time my Auntie Lucy painted me, I lose myself in the memory of people and places she brings to life with her brushes. Fortresses and high cliffs and crayon-colored boats by the sea. Gingerbread houses and coconuts poked with straws for coconut water. When I want to hear the stories of Haiti, the place where my mother was born, I talk to Auntie Lucy. I talk to Auntie Lucy's paintings, and the paintings always talk back. My mother says I was too young to remember Auntie Lucy painting me. You were only 7. How could you remember? But I do remember. It is December now, the time of year when I leave the snow and snowman making behind. I step onto an airplane, and when I step off again, a wall of heat wraps my body and instantly warms my blood. That sounds like it would be a really nice experience. And from the cold into the warmth. Inside the airport, Auntie Lucy waves me to her, and the metal bracelets along her arms start to sing. My first question is always the same. Can I sit for you, Auntie Lucy? Will you paint me this time, please? Shoo-shoo. How could I resist, she says, cupping my cheeks, but not answering my question. She opens the trunk and makes room for my suitcase, pushing the pallets and clinking jars to one side. Then we drive through city streets and familiar scenes fly by my open window. There go the boys selling water ice by the pink cathedral. And there go the market women balancing fruit baskets on their heads. There go the tap-tap buses painted with soccer stars and signs that say, "We are the children of Guinea, of West Africa." Soon the city falls under our feet and fog carpets the mountain road to the house. As we climb the hills, a question comes to me. When Mom left for the States, why didn't you come? Your mother and I are different, Tishu, she says. When I close my eyes for good, I want Haiti to be the last thing I see. I help bring in the easels and sacks filled with paint tubes and rags. Auntie Lucy doesn't waste any time quizzing me on last year's lessons. Haiti, the land of mountains. That was the name of this place before the Europeans came. She snaps vanilla beans into a pot of oatmeal. For the Spanish and the French. Before. Your mother, she doesn't tell you these stories? Delicious. At home, my parents play old compa records with friends late into the night. They argue over how Haiti got broken and how it can be fixed. My brother and I listen from the top of the stairs. They tell stories about crooked presidents and bad armies, I say. Is that true? Auntie Lucy slides the placemat onto the table and sets down the bowl. The truth is hard to untangle, she says, like a big knot of yarn. To tell the truth about this place, this tiny, tiny place, you have to look at its strong, powerful neighbor. You have to look at America too. We put black mushrooms in a pot to soak for dinner. Then we tie on our smocks and take a familiar walk down the stone path past the chickens and the garden of true black flowers into Auntie Lucy's studio. Inside, Haiti's heroes greet me. Belair and Flan, her head wrapped in white, her needle stitching a new flag for a free nation. I see Desalins and Louverture, the general who found a way to win and forced Napoleon back across the ocean. You remember what this means, she asks, and I could never forget. The opening, I say, the man who opened the way. My own heroes are here too. My grandfather, the tailor, who made suits for the businessmen in town. My great-grandmother, who wore her hair parted in two buns and went blind from old age. If these paintings could talk, I wonder, what would they tell me? With my slow, broken Creole, would they know I am their daughter? Cheetah, she says, pulling a metal stool to the middle of the floor. And when the moment comes, when I finally sit for my first portrait, I realize something. Wanting to be painted is one thing. Sitting still to be painted is another. I could feel my legs twitching, and then my arms. To keep my neck from tilting, I stop talking and lock my jaws. For a while, the painting knife and my auntie's singing bracelets are the only sounds in the room. Do you know why I paint, Tishu? She asks after a long silence. I've never thought about that. Because you're good at it? She laughs deep in her throat, then mixes more reds and browns. Because Haiti is so beautiful, I ask. Not always, she says. Sometimes it's almost too hard to look at. I paint to remember what I've seen and heard and smelled and felt. The balconies wrapped around houses, which seem to go on forever. The fists pounding on neighborhood doors and sending people into hiding. To paint Haiti takes the darkest colors and the brightest ones and all the colors in between. In 2 days of sitting, Auntie Lucy paints me from many different angles. On one easel, I can see myself turned completely to the side. In my face, I see colors I've never seen in a mirror. The caramel in my great-grandmother's skin and the deep berry in my grandfather's. I see the colors of metal roofs over houses with no upstairs or downstairs. I see the ash of earthquake dust from that time the ground shook and opened up. Auntie Lucy says our faces are like maps. I can trace yours halfway around the world, from the kingdoms of Benin to the sugarcane fields that turned into battlefields where we fought for our freedom, she says, all the way to this room and this light. I gather the brushes in a rag and follow my aunt to the washroom. Over the sink, I let the colors bleed together in the water. Ash to cocoa to rust, butterscotch to nut, and nut to clay. You paint to remember Haiti, I say, but I don't feel Haitian enough sometimes. Sometimes I don't even feel American enough. Auntie Lucy holds out her hands. Try not to think of it as one or the other, but both together, she says. You were born outside, that's true, but you hold this place in your skin, deep in your bones, and their colors do not lie. Her hands remind me of my mother's, lean but strong. Brown on brown, she folds mine into hers. I wonder what my hands will do when I'm older. I wonder what stories they will tell. Can I take it home, Auntie Lucy? Can I keep this portrait? Tishu, she says. It's yours. These colors, this people, this place belongs to you, and you belong to them, always. That, I believe, is the end. Thank you so much for joining me for this reading. If you would like to see more of our selection, we do have a selection this month of more Haitian stories by Haitian authors or Haitian readers, as well as featuring prominently Haitian main characters as well. So please feel free to drop in and enjoy what we have in our children's section. In the meantime, I hope it is a beautiful rest of your month, and thank you for joining us and celebrating with me. Bye.